How are you today? Welcome, and welcome to all replay viewers. My name is Elizabeth Willett, Senior Fertility Herbalist with the Natural Fertility Company. We are the naturalfertilityshop.com and naturalfertilityinfo.com. So today we're going to talk about something that's kind of hard to talk about sometimes, a little bit taboo. It's cervical mucus. I want to share a little bit more about a little bit more about why cervical mucus is important for fertility health. So cervical mucus, sometimes referred to as cervical fluid, is produced by the cervix at different amounts and at different times in your menstrual cycle. I've talked to you about this a little bit before, but in general, women don't see cervical fluid during menstruation, although some do, a little bit. It can be hard to tell, right? So I'm not really certain that it necessarily is, but some women claim that they do. After your period is done, within like that next following week or week to 10 days, your cervix or your hormones will begin changing, and so will your cervix, and so will your ovaries. Everything's getting ready to ovulate. And cervical fluid changes during that time too. It becomes noticeable outside of the body. It's otherwise known as wetness down there in your undies. And it might be pretty wet and fluid and kind of liquidy up until you get closer to ovulation, when it should become a little bit more pliable and stretchy. A little bit more like egg whites, a really, really fresh egg white. Egg white cervical mucus is a really good indicator that ovulation is coming. It's not something that guarantees ovulation will happen, but it is one of the signs that women track in order to detect or determine if ovulation is going to happen. And usually when ovulation is done, within the day or two after, cervical fluid will begin to change again to non-fertile or go away completely. I know some women for whom cervical mucus goes away completely after ovulation, and that can be fairly normal. And the cycle starts over again the very next time that you have a menstrual cycle. So there are a few more things that I wanted to tell you about cervical fluid. You probably know this, but I'm going to reiterate it for those who don't or maybe don't remember. But cervical fluid is very important for helping the sperm travel through the acidic environment of the vagina in and through the uterus to the fallopian tube where it meets the egg. Now, I know it doesn't seem like a really far distance, and if you were to actually measure it on a real anatomically correct model, it probably wouldn't be that long of a distance, but for that tiny little sperm cell, it is. It's a really long trip, and it can be pretty treacherous. For the most part, we're really kind of hostile down there, which seems bizarre because, we're trying to get pregnant. We don't want to be hostile down there. But anyway, it nourishes the sperm too. So the cervical fluid is liquidy, but it has electrolytes in it, and it helps nourish the sperm on its trip as well as help it travel safely. It protects it from the acidic environment, or the mostly acidic environment of the vagina. So really important for healthy conception. Now, some women don't see cervical mucus, and while it's not an immediate indicator of infertility, it can be an indicator that either hormones are out of balance, perhaps too many antihistamines or antibiotics have been used. You could just be dehydrated. If it's hot outside and you're exercising and you're overdoing it, you could just be dehydrated. For some people, simply making sure that you have enough electrolytes and you're drinking enough water can help make a huge difference. In rare cases, there can be cervical fibroids. That's very rare. I didn't even really want to bring it up, but it's a possibility, so I should mention it. But for the most part, common causes of low to no cervical mucus are, like I mentioned, dehydration, having used antihistamines if you have allergies or for whatever reason you're using them, having used antibiotics repeatedly, most likely chronic use of antibiotics, hormonal imbalance, what else? Sometimes use of contraceptives or hormonal medications can impact cervical fluid production. So all of those things. How what can you do about it if you don't have it, or if you're not seeing the right consistency of cervical mucus, or if you're not sure? There are a lot of natural therapies, actually. Number one, drink water. Drink a lot of water. Stay hydrated. Electrolyte beverages, particularly coconut water. I'm not talking about Gatorade or those sports drinks, or maybe electrolyte water. I don't know if I believe it or not, but they sell those brands of electrolyte boosted water. But water with lemon in it is fabulous, as is coconut water. Coconut water is actually nature's Gatorade. It's a natural source of electrolytes. So you could use those things. Support hormonal balance if you know you have a hormonal balance problem. And there are several different herbs. Evening primrose oil, which I talked about last Periscope, and I've talked about before. It's one of my faves. Is great. Shatavari is another amazing herb for boosting cervical mucus production. What else? L-arginine, One way to help the cervix produce healthy cervical mucus is making sure your blood flow and circulation to your reproductive organs is optimal. So encouraging healthy blood flow with L-arginine would be something to consider doing. Self-fertility massage may help some. Exercise may help some, not being so sedentary. Those are all things you can consider looking into or learning more about, at least to see if they fit your needs. We do have a CM pack, a cervical mucus pack at the Natural Fertility Shop. We sell Shatavari liquid extract. We have evening primrose oil. I've boasted about that. It's one of my favorites before. We have self-fertility massage if you're interested in. I'm going to answer this question. Mine's always watery but never egg white cervical mucus. So it might be that it's okay. Everyone's going to experience this a little bit differently. Fertile cervical mucus should be rather clear, pretty slippery, a little bit stretchy. It should be fluidy, not like water, runny water. So I'm not quite sure exactly what by watery you mean. But it might just be that, some cervical mucus support in some way could be helpful. If pregnant, what will cervical fluid look like? You may not see it. But if you do, it could be very different. I have had 2 pregnancies, and at one point had some, I know it's probably TMI, I can't believe I'm going to tell you this, but at one point in my second pregnancy, I had some rather white-looking cervical fluid at times. It was very random, and my doctor asked me if it bothered me, and it didn't. So here's the thing. If you're pregnant and you're seeing cervical fluid, or if you're seeing anything come out really that's clear or white, just talk to your doctor. Cervical fluid should not smell. It should not be discolored. It shouldn't be yellow or green or tinged in color in any way. It might be you may have a little pink cervical fluid if you spot when you ovulate. That's really the only thing that would be probably okay. Maybe it's not for everyone, I don't know, but it shouldn't be yellow. It shouldn't be discolored towards green. It shouldn't smell. It shouldn't make you itch or burn or anything like that. If you're dealing with all of that, then something more is going on and you really should go to your doctor. Sometimes cervical fluid can be creamy looking. It should change and be a little less creamy and more clear towards ovulation and at ovulation. So that could indicate that perhaps you need a little bit of cervical fluid support, or maybe just drink more water at that point. I don't know. Evening primrose oil can be consumed at, I believe it's I did this last time. I did this last Periscope. I was like, I'm not exactly sure. Reach out to our team to have them double check me, but I think it's up to 2,000 milligrams a day. When you're actively trying to conceive, you want to stop evening primrose at ovulation. So just take it from the first day of your period until ovulation. If you're not actively trying to conceive and you're allowing yourself some time to support hormonal balance before you get to that point, or you've decided you're not going to actively try to conceive, you can take it all cycle long. There are a couple different uses of evening primrose, but I believe it's up to around 2,000 milligrams a day. Like I said, contact our team so that they can double check my facts. I should have done that before I started this. I'm sorry. You may not have cervical fluid in the 2-week wait. Probably not, because that is after ovulation when cervical fluid naturally declines and goes away, can go away for some women. Okay, so someone asked about elevated estradiol levels and their cervical mucus not quite being watery but not egg white. Hormonal balance does impact cervical fluid production. It might just be that that's what's happening. Your body, as you support hormonal balance, your body should work through that and eventually show you that it has fertile cervical mucus. But if you're ovulating, and you want to try to conceive, definitely do that. Cervical mucus is just one sign that ovulation is about to happen. If you're charting and you see ovulation and your fluid isn't exactly what you think it should look like, doesn't mean you shouldn't try to conceive. Does that make sense? Underactive thyroid. Okay, so Hashimoto's thyroiditis affects cervical mucus quality. It could be. It could. It affects a lot of things, right? There are a lot of symptoms that come with Hashimoto's. So there could be a correlation. I guess I don't know that to be true. I haven't read that anywhere, but everyone experiences that so very differently. I don't know that you can increase your chances of having twins with cervical mucus. I haven't heard that's possible. In fact, to be honest, natural therapies aren't going to help increase your chances of having twins. The only way to do that, even though it's not guaranteed, is by taking hormonal medications that might prompt you to ovulate twice or 2 eggs, or manipulating ovulation. But that isn't even a hard and fast way to increase chances of having twins. The difference between red maca and golden maca. So I'm not that familiar with red maca, but I know that there have been some reports that black and red maca can interrupt healthy thyroid function. So we suggest golden maca. It's very nutritious, it's easy to digest in most cases, and doesn't interact in a negative way with thyroid function. So that's really the down and dirty of what I have in my head about golden and red maca. But we suggest the golden maca. Dandelion root extract on its own clear excess hormones from my liver. Dandelion root extract on its own is fabulous and certainly supportive of liver health. Will it help your liver process all of the excess hormones on its own? I don't know. I know you wanted a yes or no, but I don't know. It's definitely worth a try. Dandelion in general is amazing, very supportive of healthy liver function, so you certainly could try it. But there are other things to consider too, as if you find that you've taken it and you don't, it's not quite working like you wanted it to. Why does California say maca may cause birth defects? So California has this thing called Prop 56. I have a lot of information about it. In fact, I just wrote an article about maca in particular and Prop 56 on naturalfertilityinfo.com. So I'm going to want you to go there to get all of the details. But ultimately it comes down to the state needing this warning for resale of everything. I mean, I have a coworker who lives in California who works for the company, and she says there's Prop 56 signs at gas stations and all over the place. So reach out to our team or go to naturalfertilityinfo.com and grab that article, and explains exactly what Prop 56 is, why it's on supplements, and why we don't think it's warranted for maca. You shouldn't worry about maca causing birth defects. Okay, so you're at the end of your 2-week wait, and how can you tell if you may be pregnant by looking at cervical fluid? Don't. Take a pregnancy test. This is time. Okay, so as you near the end, and if you choose a test that's able to detect HCG levels within 1 day of a missed period, or you've missed your period and you're after that 2-week wait, definitely take a pregnancy test. Cervical fluid isn't an immediate indicator of pregnancy, and some women in the 2-week wait have none. So take a pregnancy test or go see your doctor. Can you get pregnant while breastfeeding with having cervical mucus? There are women who get pregnant while breastfeeding. It's not impossible. There are women who have whose periods come back and who begin to ovulate while breastfeeding. There are others who don't. So if your period returns or if you ovulate while breastfeeding, it's possible to conceive. Yeah. Well, an 11-day luteal phase isn't an immediate indicator of hormonal imbalance to me. I know that experts say that in general, so yeah, here we go, in general 12 days is healthy, but that doesn't mean 11 isn't. 11 could be a long enough luteal phase for you. Have you seen, are you having any other problems? Yeah, that's bushes behind me. Do you have fertility health issues, or are you seeing an irregular cycle? I'm just curious what other indicators or what's worrying you about an 11-day luteal phase, I guess, ultimately. That's a great question. I can't see cervical mucus around my ovulation time. Does that mean I'm not ovulating? It could be an indicator that you're not ovulating, but I don't know. It's just one tool that we use to detect ovulation. It's really best to chart your basal body temperature in addition to checking cervical mucus. Some women check cervical position. Other people use OPK test or ovulation predictor strips prior to ovulation. But ultimately, the best way to tell if you're ovulating is to chart your basal body temperature. So I can't say yes or no for certain. We're all different, and the body is amazing. You could here or there ovulate without seeing cervical fluid. I don't know. Can progesterone increase even if you do not ovulate? It is possible for that to happen. It may not increase as much as if you ovulate, but it is possible. You don't see cervical mucus, but your Clear-BZ monitor says that you're peaked, so you could perhaps ovulate. If that's the case, you're going to want to have on hand a fertility-friendly cervical, lubricant, natural lubricant, something that is fertility-friendly and natural. Emerita, E-M-E-R-I-T-A, is a brand that makes one. There perhaps are others out there that I don't know of, and that's cool. But have on hand something to replace that cervical fluid. So a lubricant, if you're going to be actively trying to conceive, because that lubricant will then act like your cervical fluid and help the sperm swim to the egg. Are you familiar with Fertility Friend? Am I right, guys? Fertility Friend for basal body temperature charting. Check it out. They are an amazing site that has forums and people to help answer questions, and perhaps other women or a group of women with Hashimoto's who are trying to detect ovulation and working through those problems. Thank you. For some reason, I second-guessed myself about Fertility Friend. I'm glad you signed up. Check it out. It's completely free. There's so much information there, and it's actually our go-to as well. Whenever I have charting questions or I just need a reference, I go to them. So, yeah. Someone else here commented that they use the Clear-BZ ovulation detector device. It's a good one. You certainly could consider going to your local pharmacy or any big pharmacy and seeing if they have that, trying that. Or charting your basal body temperature or any other way of detecting ovulation too. All right, well, I don't see any comments at the moment, so and there comes one. Thank you. Yeah, oh, thanks for the praise. Yeah, I try to stay on top of blocking people. It's not always easy, when you're live to the masses, it can be hard, and some people are insensitive, but we aren't. Our team is not. We get it. We understand the hard journey you're on. We understand all of your frustrations and how every day one little shift or thing can feel weird and kind of make you freak out. It's completely normal. I don't want you to be freaking out about anything, but we're here for you if you need us. We have live chat. We have email. We're on social media. You certainly can reach out to us in any way. We'll do the best to support you or get you to someone who can if we can't. We can certainly be a helpful tool on your journey and part of your care program. We can be part of your team. Everybody should have at least a small team to go to. So I thank you for coming today, and I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. And if you have any questions, reach out to us, and we'll see you next week. All right. Bye, everyone.